In this video, I would like to talk about two different things. I just really want to get this one off my chest. I've been holding this in forever. This is anti-gravity, or at least a concept for it. It's not real anti-gravity, and according to my gravitational field model, this is nothing like that. But what this takes is a ferromagnetic gas that differentiates pressure and, well, gas mass. So the idea is that mass can accumulate here, which controls your center of mass. And you can change the density of that gas and change the mass of the gas. To create a controlled boundary layer. This boundary layer, acting with atmospheric pressure, acts like a controlled lift. Let's say that. Just in a different way. That was my best attempt at drawing it out and figuring it out, and that's pretty much it. And I'm pretty sure it would work, but as far as I know, the type of ferromagnetic gas that I was anticipating is not foreseeable in the future. We are not going to develop it. It's not even probably possible, honestly. It's like a ferromagnetic fluid, except in a gaseous state. And I have thought about it for a very long time and cannot even imagine actually polarizing and creating the same flow current that I was perceiving for this at the efficiency without drag and resistance. So it's a fun idea. This would work for science fiction. It's awesome, right? For science fiction. However, not for viability. With that said, I want to talk about, I think I got into my engine, right? I got into my engine. Did I get into my tire? That's what I was going to do. My tire. Ooh, this is another one. Yeah, my revolver. I was going to design an auto-extracting revolver so that I could challenge Jerry McCulloch's record. I have since given up on that. Anyway, this is my favorite invention, my pride and joy. This is an asymmetrically circumferenced tire. It's always got a straight line there. I just think that looks good. It's not actually... I mean, in a sense, if you apply lateral force to that, this is going to resist turning, and if you have down force applied to that. But, so, off topic, which is why I drew different versions of it for the same concept, is that this is an asymmetrically circumferenced tire. And the guy at Mercedes who wants to pretend that he invented this shape doesn't know a fucking thing what he's talking about. And I'm sorry, but I'm a little peeved, okay? This is what I wanted to spend my life doing. Pagani, Koenigsegg, fucking Cheryl Kobe. Kobe. Carroll Shelby. There you go. That's his name. When you mix those up, it sounds funny. Cheryl Kobe. But this was my pride and joy. I reinvented the wheel. I redesigned it. I didn't reinvent it. I redesigned it. And this uses torsion of different circumferences of tire tread and a friction bias to create rotational inertia. And God, this is how I wanted to die. Like, I wanted to die driving this thing, you know. I wanted to be the guy who invented the parachute and just like, I know this can work. I'm willing to risk my life for it. And then you meet the ground, sort of thing. That one again. Yeah, this, every fucking time I try to record this, that is regrowable tire tread. Which is just a great concept, but I cannot figure out the chemistry for it. I tried. This, the mechanics, this is lovely. So, as this leans in, it applies force to level the chassis, which also keeps it, or keeps the body work, let's see, elevated based on drag coefficients to the inside. So you want less drag on the inside, I thought, and higher drag on the outside, which creates downforce, which compensates as this tire is rotating. The length of tire, the circumference of the tire is smaller, so then it's traveling a shorter distance in a turn, which is, you know, like a track meet, right? So the people that run around the outside have to run longer, so their finish line is shorter, sort of. It's not actually shorter, right? But it looks like it's shorter. That's the fun thing. And so the outside has a greater circumference. This is because that has to rotate at an equivalent speed or relevant speed, right, to the inner circumference. And there are two things. One is that this could work with a 100% differential lock. That, in theory, if you can perfectly align this and set up mechanics and spring rates, that as you lean into a turn, you don't need a differential. And two, I was hoping that this compiled with my engine and my transmission to control torque, to control horsepower, to control a manipulatable grounded downforce. And we're going to get into my active aerodynamic design that ended up on that Mercedes too in a very basic form. Is that I thought that this would carry as much G as humanly possible, lateral G, in a corner. And it does have issues with bumps. It has issues with cambered roads into corners. It has issues with I don't know, I mean, there's issues. There's always an issue. You can't escape them. Behind every choice is a paradox. It drives you mad if you let it. And that's when you come up with your best ideas, I swear. At least you think they're the best. But, so, you can see here, I thought that leaning the tire in would pull down on the counterpoint, and that would make the chassis lean in as well. And I don't know the words, but when you lean something in and try to apply outward force, it resists just as much as a tire that accepts that pitch of center of gravity versus the upper I don't know, what is it, radial mass versus the inner radial mass. It's similar to gyroscopes. That's not right. Gyroscopic, no, flywheels. One of those thingies that I made another video about. These spin around and they harmonically match stabilize. So as this leans in, it controls the ability of the chassis to rotate as desired, to generate. So say the road is cambered. This can go up and down to manipulate your center of mass pull on, and based on how this pulls on to your body work, this will create drag coefficients, and it will, there's so fucking much. Okay, I'm not trained in engineering. I'm just one of those guys who likes to think too much. My engine. So with this, if you can imagine that, more stretched out on each side and formed into something similar to this, it will pull more G, or as much G, as a fighter jet. And that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted to be the guy that, because I love turning. I don't like going fast in a straight line. It's boring to me. It doesn't matter how quickly I go in a straight line. Like, I love turning. And that's what makes driving the most fun for me. What the hell did I do? Okay. And so it'll, golly, modulate everything. And you, with a guy that could do a lot of math, I'm telling you, one of those guys, one of the good ones, he'll know exactly how to do what I want it to do. And we can just make a car that turns. I'm telling you, turns and turns. This fucking thing is like, it's inspired similar to the fan car. I think I got into that when I was talking about the engine. And I know Gordon Murray got that design from somebody else, which is fine. You don't get to say I'm going to make something round and other people can't use round objects. It's not how this all works. So how you can modulate your lift parameters, your friction bias, your friction coefficient, your drag coefficient, your polar moments of inertia, your polar moment of drag, which, if anybody who likes aeronautics knows that polar moment of drag and lift are why planes can fly. And well, it also has to do with leverage force, center of mass, and that's pretty close to all of it. I'm sure better physicists, I'm self-taught, so this was the most fun I could imagine having in a car for turning. And I knew that it would wear unevenly. So I was trying to imagine a solution to that, which was regrowable tire tread. So that you could, looks like actuation, levers and growing, and all sorts of different things. And because based on how you're turning, it's never going to be consistent. Modern cars are very consistent, actually, with tire tread wear. It's pretty cool what they do. I mean, they're very, very rational. This is not rational. And I modeled this after the owl because the owl's body will rotate separate from his head. It'll curve around a turn and its head will just be flat. that. And I was like, you know, that'd be so cool in a car. And my father would always talk about Porsches, how they would lean into a turn. He saw a picture of one. And, well, how is that plausible? How can you make a car lean into a turn? It is, in fact, possible. But not through the simple drawings that I have ever made of it. But this is my redesign of the wheel. It's inspired by physics. It's inspired by the love of driving and going around a turn too fast and thinking, I just want to lean the other way. And I want to feel lateral G-force. Except if you are taking a left turn and you're leaning into it, it's not going to hurt your neck as much, right? It's going to be quite good. It's going to be very, very fucking fun. So, Mercedes, actually, why don't we look up that shit? And I can go get my original drawing of this, which I did 6.5 years ago. After my ex and I broke up. But let's see, where is it? You have this concept car. And all the tires turn contradictory to the regular axis, so, or the directive axis. There you go. Yeah, directive axis. Let's see that. And you can see there. This is my original drawing that I did while I was talking on the phone, and I was like, you know, I just figured it out. I still have that notebook. I made it, but I never used it much for some reason. Designed my own binding method too, if you look at it. So what I did is I soaked the ends, clamped them together, and drilled holes, and I put wooden dowels, I think they were toothpicks actually, into the holes, and I super glued them, and boy, it works. So it's a cheap way to bind a book if you ever need to. And let's see, the engine for perfect weight displacement, and there's so much in this stupid book. If you have my brain, it'll be overwhelming. Seriously, come on. Oh, fuck. What am I doing? That's what I want to talk about, the wings. Okay, so these, yes, I brought this up in another video. The wings were separated. And there aren't wings necessarily like this. I wanted them to generate more leverage force to the left. Imagine it like a diffuser with a hole cut in it. Not a diffuser. What am I talking about? A splitter. A splitter. So if you look at that like a splitter, but then you cut a hole between the body and create a wing. Well, that separate wing functions at the front to control force to the wheels like an unsprung mass, except it's more like an unsprung down force, if that makes any sense. And I've never seen anything like that on a car. Same thing in the rear, except it's on the upper with a wild diffuser. It looks like a fish fin. It's supposed to be similar to a bird's tail. But I feel like I've rambled enough for this. I don't know if there's anything I've missed. Other than, yeah, I wanted to make it a single seater to dual seat conversion. And so that, you'd have your center and you could sit to the side and bring somebody else with you. And, yeah, I don't know what that's going on about. And after this, we will get in probably to fusion. I don't use that word too much. It's a word I invented, but it's useless in everyday application, I swear.